Welcome to a new video. Today we're going to take a look at the surprise list that I made for you guys. And this one that I decided to go with is a Crusadia list. Now, Crusadia is an archetype that I haven't brought to the channel for a very long time, and I've been working on and kind of like scouting and seeing what's really good in the deck and all that stuff. And essentially this is the list that I came up with, and I hope you will enjoy that. Now, the deck itself is a deck that is OTK related, so basically just punch and go face, but there are also some capabilities for the deck if you are forced to, as you're going to see in the list itself, that if you need to, even if you're not able to OTK, or you're kind of just forced going first, you still have the ability to put up a decent board, which we'll get to that when we get to the list itself. But before we jump right into the list as a whole, I'm going to remind you the usual thing, that the subscriber day, keep the depression away, so if you want to help the channel see more videos like this, I would muchly appreciate it hitting the subscribe button, and also giving a like to show your appreciation for the video if you enjoyed it. Honestly, the support in the last couple of months have been amazing, so thank you guys all for that, and let's keep that up. And we're getting really close to the new series that I'm going to release at 2500, which is really cool. So without further ado, let's jump right into the list itself. So starting things off with the Crusadia list itself and jumping right into the cards, we're going to start with the Crusadia monsters, which I basically run 3 copies of all of them, which we start with 3 copies of Maximus, followed up by 3 copies of Draco, 3 copies of Arborea, and then 3 copies of Reclusia, and 3 copies of Leonis. Now, these all are your currently Crusadia monsters. These are the only Crusadia names, and you want to maximize on all of these because you want to see most of the time in your combos for going first if you are forced to, or if you are also going second and you want to do your plays, you most of the time want to see 2 of them in your hand, if not more, because all of them have the effect that you can basically summon them to a zone a link monster points to in defense position once per turn each, which is very powerful by itself, and giving them the ability to also be your normal summons, but also be extenders, which is kind of really cool. Now, what they also do individually, when in the case of Maximus and Regulus, or Leonis, sorry, these 2 have the ability that doesn't happen when they're when they're summoned, but also just happen whenever you want to, that giving you the ability to target 1 Crusadia link monster you control, and in the case of Maximus, giving it the ability to do double damage, and all monsters you control other than it cannot attack for the turn. And then in the case of Leonis, he kind of just give your monster the ability to inflict piercing damage to your opponent, which is kind of just the point is like sometimes you have monsters in defense position, so having the ability to deal with them in an OTK deck is actually kind of cool. In the case of the 3 others, well, these are more of like your other utility cards slash helpers. Draco giving you the ability when it's summoned to a link monster's arrow, he's able to retrieve 1 of your Crusadia monsters from your graveyard back to your hand. In the case of Reclusia, he's able to pop 1 of your Crusadia monsters and then one card your opponent's side of the field as well, so giving you the ability to kind of like interrupt your opponent if you need to, and it's kind of just really nice to also proc negations very early on so you can continue your plays. And then you have Arborea, which is, it's a tuner, but mostly what she does is that she's a protection because she can punish herself from the field or graveyard to protect your Crusadia monster to be destroyed either by battle or by card effect, which is kind of good. So these are your Crusadia names. Honestly, there's nothing really much to say about them. You're supposed to special summon them into your zones, your Ecomax, or just start your plays and then essentially either boost it and do all of your shenanigans in that lineup. Maximus is definitely the most important one going second, but going first, it really doesn't matter which ones you open up with, because going first, you're going to try to open up, create a board of 3 interruptions or, stuff like that. So that's actually pretty important. But then for the rest of the stuff, I run 1 copy of World Legacy World Crown, 3 copies of Pearl Exceed, 3 copies of Renryu, 1 copy of Gigabyte, and 1 copy of Codebreaker 0 Day. These are your extenders slash very important cards. In the case of World Legacy World Crown, this one is either an interruption, which is really cool, or it's just an extender because summoning it to a zone, your Crusadia stuff points to is not really that hard, and having that option is actually pretty good. Parallel Exceed, pretty self-explanatory. You draw into it, is just a good extender. The only problem with it, however, is that it's not searchable. All of these are not searchable, but the point is, like, if this was searchable, it would have been so much better. Now, I know there's the option to run Format Skipper, but the problem with Format Skipper is something called Gamma, Ash, Infperm, Effect Veiler, and such, which are kind of just going to stop you from doing stuff. Then again, Effect Veiler and Infperm doesn't really do a whole lot of things, but, you know, Ash and Gamma are run a lot in the format, so they're going to stop you from adding the Exceed, and sometimes it just, like, you know, just stops your turn immediately there. And if they are throwing Effect Veiler or an Imperm on your Skipper, which then turn into, like, you know, a Crusadia name to turn into the Magius, it's also a problem because then you're not able to follow up because you're not able to make a Link monster. Which there is one that technically can be used for that, but it's still kind of bad to go that route, and honestly, you don't really need the Format Skipper. If you want to, you can definitely cut some of the cards here, these, and cut, and, like, play Format Skipper, and also, like, maybe cut, like, leave one of these, but you can do whatever you want. In the case of these, if you control a Magius or a Reclusia, this is a free special summon. You can also just play one of each of these for the sake of just, you know, different attributes. But these are not harder ones per turn, so that's one thing really cool about them. And the reason why I decided to go with Ranryu 3 than one copy of this, one copy of Inari Fire, and, you know, Gigabyte and the Earth one, is because of Bird Up. Bird Up, I believe, like, most of the time doesn't really have the ability to protect its barrier statue monster by battle, so you're at least, like, if you're able to proc them enough and you're able to, like, sometimes bait them, you're able to sometimes normal summon this, get over the barrier statue, and then start your plays to do what you need to do. So, very, very important in that department, in my opinion. This one is just good for that. Of course, like I said again, you can change these into Format Skipper and then turn this into something else, but I feel these do what they need to do. And then Codebreaker 0 Day, this is your brick, but the card that just help you going first or going second if you need to make a bigger end board, or just specifically you just need to go first, which we'll get to it in the combo section, which is like the combo itself, not the combo section, because there is only one combo for this video specifically. But that does it for those, and then for the last 4 monsters, we're playing Kaijus, Jizukiru, and then Gadarla, I guess, how you pronounce it, and then 1 Gamma Seal. Normally you would play 2 Gamma Seal and 1 Kamangas, but again, Bird Up and other decks are kind of like, you know, Wind are probably going to be a problem. They're going to lock you into Wind. This is just able to remove the barrier statue, and then you're able to start your plays or just bait your opponent and stuff like that, which is really important. So these are the 4 Kaiju names that I decided to go with. Definitely really good cards. You want to play these because of the fact that this deck is a deck that likes to go second, and these are also really great because you're able to summon them into a zone of your Equimax, and then you boost your Equimax because it's point to one of those monsters, and that is actually kind of stupid. So having the ability to do that and give your Equimax additional boost of like 3,300 or 27 or 22 is actually really, really good, especially if it's able to attack everything, which we'll get to the spells in a second for that, so that's really good. And like I said, this is because of Bird Up, you want to run 2 of this instead of just 1 additional Gamma Seal and Kamungus. Of course, it can be depending on what you want specifically, but these are the 4 Kaijus that I like to run. Now, of course, you can run more or less, but I feel like 4 is just a good number right now. But that does it for the monsters. Now move on into the spells. And for the spells, we're going to start with the Crusadia stuff, which is double power and 1 revival. These are your Crusadia-related spell. Most of the time when you're going second, I actually like to search revival rather than power, because revival allows you to OTK really, really easily. You just boost your Equimax by 500 additional attack, and it can attack everything. So sometimes it doesn't really comes up, so you search the power, but if you're able to attack everything, you're able to kind of just go revival, boost your Equimax by 500, and then just attack everything, and that's kind of stupid, because your Equimax is the only card that's going to be able to attack anyway, so just having this is really good. And then Crusadia Power is kind of like your own in-archetype called by the grave, but not really. You just turn one of your monster is kind of just unaffected by card effects for this turn, except its own, which is really, really powerful if you just need a particular, like, you know, proc for a search and your opponent is going to stop you. For a Maximus, you're able to drop this on your Magius, and then it's still going to be able to get the search, which is really good. And then for the rest of the spells, 2 copies of Interrupted Kaiju Sumbler, 2 copies of Hate Runade, 1 Monster Reborn, 1 Succession, and then the 1 copy of Reinforcement of the Army. These are the rest of the spells I decided to go with. Interrupted Kaiju Slumber, only 2, not 3, because of, being a harder once per turn. Still a very, very good card. Being able to just nuke the entire board and summon 2 Kaijus, very, very powerful. And like I said again, Kaijus are also good cards for you to point into with your Equamax, also giving you the ability to search next turn for another Kaiju if you need to kind of just have another threat to your opponent. Then, and like I said, 3 is just not really necessary because it's a harder once per turn, and also you just, it's really just not needed in this kind of game state. The game is just way too fast, and your opponent can still stop this, so it's more like either bait or just a really good card. It's really depending on the situation. Sometimes, and most of the time, you just use this as bait to just proc an interruption. And then Hate Runade against back row decks. This is kind of the equivalent best option we have for Lightning Storm. Still very, very good. You're either able to force things like Eldritch and stuff like that to just activate and spam all of their traps immediately, so they will not lose advantages and just deal with the back row, or just make them proc the back row immediately once you activate the Hate Runade, or just getting rid of things like the Solemns, unless we're dealing with Solemn Judgment, which then even if you just negate, make the Solemn Judgment negate this, you still know that they have something valuable that you might want to destroy or deal with. So having the Hate Runade, very, very powerful and very, very good. And then the last 3 cards, Monster Reborn is Monster Reborn, Succession is another, Monster Reborn, and also searchable by another card, which we'll get to in a second. And then Reinforcement of the Army, because it's Search Arborea, which is another Crusadia name, so, you just want to get those, because these are important. Like I said, opening up 2 Crusadia names is actually pretty important for most of your plays. And then for the last 2 cards, 1 Crusadia Crawler and 1, unfortunately, proxied Gravedigger Trap Hole. Unfortunately, I have to proxy this card because it's a little bit expensive and I wasn't able to get this one yet, but I'm definitely going to get it for next time. And Gravedigger Trap Hole, if you didn't get it, we are playing Rafflesia because of Exceed and stuff like that, so it still serves as kind of like an interesting interruption, and also just a way to deal with Nibiru, which is really good. And then the way to have Crawler is to, if you are forced going first or you're not sure you're able to OTK your opponent, having the additional follow-up / the ability to build a better board rather than just force punch into OTK, see that you're not able to, and just not have anything is just really important. So, you do need to test your entire board, or just, not test the entire board, but, you do need to proc the entire board, and also just look in your hand, look in the field, and see what you can make in kind of like a math. And if you're not going to be able to, you just go into this, trying to go into turn 4, or just trying to push into turn 3 if you're going first. So Crawler is very, very good for that. And like I said, this is just either another interruption in the case of Gravediggers, or just a way to stop Nibiru, which is pretty good. But that's pretty much does it for the main deck. Now we'll move on into the extra deck. And for the extra deck itself, let's start with the Crusadias, obviously. I like to run specifically 2 Maximus, 1 Spatha, 1 Regulix, double Equamax, and then the 1 Avermax. This is the lineup that I like to run normally in my Crusadia list. I know specifically some people will ask me why do I not run a 3rd Magius, but from testing, I just see that Maximus, or should I say Magius, the 3rd one just never comes up. Never. The 3rd one definitely could be good if you're feeling like you are going into these grind games, but those grind games are so rare, and even then I'm just not even going into the 3rd one, or I don't really have enough materials to just go into this, then summon something, then get the search. It's kind of like a weird thing, so it's Magius, it's really good in my opinion at 2. You can always cut one of these to put a 3rd Magius if you feel like it, but Magius is just really, really good at 1, or should I say at 2. This one is if a link monster, or should I say a monster is summoned to his link, you're able to search a Crusadia monster. This one does the same thing, but search for spells and traps. This one moves stuff, which is actually really, really good. You're able to even move some stuff for your opponent, which is big, right to the Equamax arrow that you're going to link into, so that's really, really good for that department as well. And then Equamax itself, the man, the legend, the one that turned the OTK into a thing, and also just a really, really great card generally. You're able to tribute one of your cards that is Crusadia or World Legacies that it points to. maybe lose attack, but you're able to negate any effect in the field. So this also turned into a very, very nice kind of like Omni negate if you're going first, which making this card, like, I'm falling in love with this card because it's really awesome for that. And then you have Avermax if for those weird situations that you need just a big boss that just like really, really hard and annoying to remove, and Equamax is worst for them. It's kind of like a weird interaction between these two. Most of the time you want to summon this, but depending on the game, you might want to summon an Avermax, which is also kind of like annoying to your opponent to deal with. But that does it for the Crusadia links, and now we'll move on into the generic stuff that you just want to run. For the links that are not Crusadia, I like to run 1 copy of Lingaribo, 1 Link Spider, 1 Codebreaker, Virus Swordsman, 1 Virus Berserker, 1 Tenyi, Draco Master of the Tenyi, 1 copy of Bow of the Goddess, and then for Xyz, 1 Dweller, and 1 Traptrix Rafflesia. These are the rest of the cards that I like to run. And the reason why I run these is that this one, obvious, it's the Trap Trick, or should I say Trap Hole, very good for that. Then you have Abyss Dweller, which is just the other rank 4 if you want to go into that, just giving you the ability to just shut down graveyards. Appaloosa Bow of the Goddess, mostly just if you are forced going first in some particular situations. This one is just, you make this, sit on it as one of your interruptions, and just either proceed from there, or you just use this after you break your opponent's board enough, but you also need to build your own because you're not able to OTK, which you will see what I mean in the combo section in a second, which I'm going to talk about it a little bit more. And then we have Draco, which is honestly just for these two. It does have a nice effect to not be kind of like destroyed by an effect monster, but mostly you don't really care about that. You just care about the fact that it has 3 link arrows, it's a link 3, it's generic, and it pawns downward. It does require a link monster to summon, but mostly it doesn't really matter because you're going to turn a Regulus and another monster into this. And then you're able to just summon this one, summon your Virus, or should I say Codebreaker 0 Day, turn to a Virus Berserker, then you turn Virus Berserker under this link, and then you summon the 2 others that you used before, and then you get yourself a lot of extenders for that particular play. Link Spider, just really good if you get Nibiru'd, you turn the Nibiru token into this if you need to, and then you just continue on from there because you don't really care. And then this one is for the Parallel Exceed extender if you're not able to use the Parallel Exceed extender sometimes for anything and you are afraid of traps like Evenly Matched, you just turn this into this and you have a way to deal with Evenly Matched so your opponent will not be able to wipe up your entire board. But that's pretty much does it for the extra deck. And does it for the deck profile as a whole. So yeah, that's pretty much what does it for the list. Obviously, I kind of like took the camera a little bit backwards just to show you a little bit more. But, you know, this list is really, really fun. This archetype is pretty cool. And it's just like either a one-punch OTK-like deck, or you're able to do just some really, really cool things. That, like, you know, sometimes you are forced to go first. So that's not a bad thing for this deck to deal with. Obviously, you can also play the Guard Dragon engine if you're interested in, like, forcedly going first. But I like the ability to mostly be OTK, but have the ability to change tactics if you want to. So that's what I really like about this deck. But now, let's move on into the going first / if you're not able to OTK combo, which I promised for you at the start of this deck profile, and through all of it, let's just be honest. But let's jump right into that. So welcome for the combo itself that I promised you at the start of the deck profile. And for this combo, we're going to use two Crusadia names, and then the 1 extender. Now for this combo specifically, I'm going to say right now before we begin, is that this combo is not really used normally if you know that you're able to OTK or you're going second. So if you're going second and you know that you're going to OTK, you're not going to use this combo. This combo is only going to be used if you're forced to go first, or you're not able to be 100% sure that you're able to OTK your opponent with the cards that you have in your hand and put enough damage on board. So you basically resort into this, breaking their boards, and build your own. But now, let's jump right into the combo itself, which, like I said, it's only used for those particular situations. So, starting things off with the cards that we have in our hand, like I said, we need 2 Crusadias and 1 extender. If, of course, you have Parallel Exceeds and stuff like that, things change. But to start things off, we're going to normal summon the Maximus, and then immediately turn him into a Magius. Then, we're going to use the effect of Ranryu in our hand, because we control a Spellcaster. special summon it to one of to Megaeus Link's arrow, and then search to our hand the Crusadia Arborea. We're then going to use these two immediately, and then summon Regulus. And then we're going to use the effect of Draco in our hand, special summon it into Regulus Link Arrow, Chain Link 1, Chain Link 2, to then turn Chain Link 2 to add to our hand back the Maximus, and then search to our hand the Crawler to essentially have it as some kind of a follow-up for next turn, and also have it as an interruption on Equimax, which we'll get to that. Then we'll turn these two, because this is including a Link monster. We're going to turn it into the Teamndl Link 3. And the Teamndl Link 3 is really important because of the fact that it has 3 Link arrows. Honestly, it doesn't really matter for that for the most part, but the fact that it has 3 Link arrows pointing down is what is important about it. Then we're going to special summon Arborea, and then special summon the Maximus, because we haven't used the effect of Maximus to special summon itself, and then turn these two into Codebreaker Virus Swordsman. Virus Swordsman will activate its effect because it's co-linked to special summon Codebreaker 0 Day. And then we're going to turn these two once again into another monster, and that one will be Codebreaker Virus Berserker, giving us the ability to summon 0 Day back from our graveyard, and also summon Virus Swordsman back from our graveyard. Now we're going to use these two. This one is treated as a 1, this one is treated as a 2, and we're going to summon an Equimax to our extra monster zone. And then this one's treated as a 3, this one's treated as a 1, and we're going to turn these two into Appaloosa, Bow of the Goddess. And that's how we're going to end our end board. 2 Interruption Appaloosa, which is, 2. I guess I just need to look for it for a second. An Equimax with the ability to summon Crawler to our side of the field, which then not also give us an Omni Negate, but also a follow-up in form of Succession or Crown, depending on what we want. So kind of just giving us 1 interruption and then 2 monster interruptions. Now, of course, this could be better if we're getting additional extenders, because having more than 2 interruptions is quite better, because sometimes your opponent can normal summon something and get over this. But it is what it is, and honestly, it's not that bad to begin with. Like, sometimes if you're able to just break their board, they're not able to build it back again, or they're trying to activate something before, I guess a lightning storm or something like that, so you're able to at least negate that, and then you just have the 2 monster negate, which are still, this is still a stylable monster. Obviously, it's not the best thing in the world, but it is something that you can do. And then if you have additional follow-ups in your hand, or you're able to get into them, then it's not that bad. But most of the time, after you break your opponent's board, this should be good enough to deal with threats and just at least prevent them for a turn to deal with you. But that's pretty much does it for the combo for going first, or if you're not able to OTK. Now we'll move on into the, I guess, deck schedule coming up for the next few weeks. We want to talk about that for a second. So let's jump right into that. Alright, so for the deck schedule for the next, I guess, 2 weeks or so. Basically, the schedule for, after the so-called, the choices that you made last week, I decided to kind of just do, just let's see what you guys want to. And turns out that the first thing that you guys want to is Code Talkers, and the second one that you want to is a Teamndl. Now, of course, the 2 others kind of just didn't really get a vote, which are Fluffles and Unchained, which, again, I will just bring them back next week. But for next week specifically, we're going to have Code Talkers with, hopefully, the new series that I'm planning to do if we get into 2500, as well as I'm going to start doing reviews, because I want to talk about Lightning Overdrive, because we're a month away from Lightning Overdrive, so I think it's about time we'll make a little bit of a reviews for, before that set, because I think people will be interested in that. But that's pretty much does it for this as a whole. Like I said, Code Talkers next week after that Teamndl, and in the Code Talker list, I'm going to bring out 4 deck choices again, so I'll be able to plan ahead for the lists after that. Which again, I'm really thankful that you guys are actually appreciating that and not telling me that I need to do it from week to week, because doing it from week to week is actually kind of hard. But anyway, that's pretty much it for the list itself. Hope you enjoyed once again. If you did, please consider giving a like and also subscribing to the channel. And remember, creativity is the key in this game. Have a good day, stay safe, and hopefully see you guys next week for the first review for the Lightning Overdrive set, because, like I said, it's about time to review these guys. Bye-bye.